cannot say with certainty that we would have any hope. Because, in fact, this is not the first time we are getting such assurances from government about complaints of other various challenges such as this one. So they know where they have sourced for the funds. So if they are actually having some finance or some powers that they would able to tell the contractors that, hey, this is what we have, or this is what we have accrued at the end of the project for you, then I think we'll make some headway. But as I sit here, I don't know, because there have been series of challenges like that on the same project when the old contractor, in fact the original contractor, left the project citing non-payment of his certificate. And then another company by name WA, is a Haijian WA company group, came in and they just did some funny job in about a month, doing about 1 kilometer reshaping and then 300 meters of graded crash rock, and also abandoning the site. That goes a long way to say that if we are in a haste to actually please the residents or the citizenry, we shouldn't lose at the fact that due diligence ought to be adhered to. If engineers were tasked to actually look through the documents of the said contractor, I'm not sure we'll be where we are today.
In this case, we are being told by governments that this was always on the books, and the source of funding has also been put in the release. It says the proposal seeks to source funds from the Development Bank of Belarus and ECOWAS Bank for investments, and developments. Does that give you some more assurance?
Yeah, when you have donor funds coming in, mostly the projects are not interrupted. When you have Danida, ADB, World Bank coming in to actually finance a project, you don't normally have these hiccups. So I think they have done their homework, and then they are sure of where they are getting the funds for. So I can say, look, let's give them the benefit of the doubt this time around and see, because initially it was a GOG, and you and I know that GOG jobs, you can count 1,001 of GOG jobs which have been abandoned, and in fact they are rather costing us so much money that if they could have been prioritized and finished much earlier than the stipulated time.
So from what you've seen and heard, is there any difference between this and your average road contract?
I think
how this one is being executed, what makes this different from others?
Well, if the document that I cited much earlier with regard to the initial contract, everything was just followed through the latter. With the challenges that they have had, it doesn't make the other one different. The only thing is that government might have prioritized this one because of the campaign that your good self and your station might have actually initiated, which is actually yielding a lot of fruit. Otherwise, there are 1,001 of such projects which are abandoned, and because the residents are not actually making any shouting, or they are not crying louder than what is happening on Legma, they are also still abandoned like that. A lot of those roads are the cocoa roads. A lot of them are similar, because that is even the cocoa funded project, which is our own money, which have used for grants to get the funds to Ghana to come and execute such project. But what I want government to do on this road is that it is about time that we reduce our scope, as in awarding 10, 20, 50 contracts at the same time for political gains, when in fact we can really do about 5. Because where I sit, in 2015, when that road was awarded to the contractor, the project was around 62.225 million Ghana cedis. With my experience in my field, this project as of now would cost us the region of about 90 million Ghana cedis. That is to say that the project has even increased by about 30 to 45%. And that is not any good thing for the state. So we should prioritize, if the government in the quest for infrastructure development can do about 5 projects at a time, so be it. Than to go and cut short for 10, 20, 30 projects, and then when the contractors are not paid after 91 days, almost all the projects will be accruing interest on delay payment, interest on idle equipment, and then government is mandatory to pay. If the contractor is even opting out of the project, you are supposed to do settlement because you are at fault. How would the contractor go on a project? He executes a project to a certain magnitude, he receives certificate about 5 times, amounted to about 25 million Ghana cedis, and it's paid only 4 million or 5 million, and then the employer expect the contractor to go back and work. It's not done.
But in this case, Engineer Mahama, we already have a number of these projects out there. So what's the way out?
I think one of the advice I'll give to government is to sit with the contractors. Some of the contracts, in the interest of paying more money down before, some of them ought to be abrogated or ought to be stalled for now. If some of the contractors are understanding, they can actually terminate some of the contracts so that government can now look elsewhere to get funds. Because if we do not do that, and then we are all hanging, thinking that the contractors will go and raise some money somewhere and come and continue the work, as long as the projects keep on stalling and we are not executing the job, we have not sat down with the contractor, we have not mediated or reconciled the document with the contractors, it will be accruing interest. And most of the components of the project, people say we have the material in Ghana, yes, but before you break chippings, you need to have dynamite, and we don't produce dynamite in Ghana, so you have to use the exchange rate. Before you do the bitumen, you cannot do that. You have to go and buy from Takrady, which is also an end product from elsewhere. Our store doesn't have that capacity to start giving us that quantity of bitumen we need for all of the construction. Before you do your guardrails, you have to buy those guardrails from outside the country, and all that. So if we keep on sitting there hoping that we'll find some money somewhere along the line to execute the project, before we say jack, we are paying quadruple the amount of money involved in the project. I have witnessed a project in this country which is about 10 years running, and they are scary.
Engineer, this one says the proposal seeks to source funds. So, in this case, from your experience, how is the contractor currently funding the work he's doing?
This is a new contractor. So, I presume that, mostly some of these contractors should have some funds that they can at least run on their own for some months. Because you cannot be a Class A contractor without being able to show that you can do a certain amount of job or a quantity of job for like 3-4 months running. So I'm just assuming that the contractor who has developed the interest or who had the interest in expressed interest in completing this project might be financially sound to maybe continue with the progress of the job for like 3-4 months, with the hope that by which time government would have been able to negotiated or lobbied these foreign donor fund countries to have come in to continue with the payment. If that is not done, trust me, somewhere along the line, this contractor would also hold the progress of the job if he had not been advanced to the site, because you need to advance mobilization to the contractor to go. And as we speak now, I don't see anywhere in the document that you have read that government had advanced mobilization to the contractor to go and execute the job.
Well,
so I am just thinking that it's an agreement.
It
will be a very good agreement between the contractor and the government. That, see, we don't have the money now, but you have some money with your banks. So kindly start with the execution of the job. We would come in, and then maybe halfway through the down the line, would come in and effect payments to the IPC that you'll be raising for us.
And from your experience as a road engineer, this is what usually happens?
No. In instances where we have difficulty, that's where we have it. Like when the government is the employer's skills. If the employer doesn't have the money and he feels that the contractor can actually sponsor or finance the project to a certain extent before they come in, then that's what one of. But otherwise, most of the GOGs or most of the contract we do in Ghana, you would have the government ought to find its own funds before they come in. If it is GOG funded or it is ADB or Danida or African Development Bank or like the Adenta one where it came from Badia Fund from Saudi Arabia. So that's how government is supposed to do that. But I want government to be given realistic timelines. You see, when the citizenry are actually crying, they are shouting, they are expecting government to do something, the professionals ought to be brought to the table so that you give them realistic timelines upon which government is supposed to complete them. The Adenta footbridges, have they been fully completed?
No.
Thank you. It was said that in 2 months, the end of December 2018, it was supposed to have been completed. And I said on authority that the project that I saw there, the outstanding works that I saw there, it will take a minimum of 6 months. I think I had my bashing when I made that statement on authority. But this is what it is now. So the professionals ought to be brought to the table when government want to even give timelines to the citizens so that we have people would actualize what is happening on the site. If Ghanaians are told the truth, that see, we're in the rainy season, all the weather the contractor has started there. When it rains on the gravel today, he needs about 3 more days before he can go and clarify. Because if he's doing filling material, the filling material has a certain amount of clay. So when it rains, when he has clarified the road, he needs about maybe 72 hours uninterrupted sunshine before he can go and clarify the road again and recompact. So people should be told this so that they would then appreciate that some of these things are nature. But if the person is doing the crash rock base, which is non-plastic, once it rains, in the next 2, 3, 4 hours, the contractor can continue with the works. But when he's doing general filling, when he has a high plasticity index, he cannot continue with the work when it has rained.
So, engineer, what would be a realistic timeline for this project?
I cannot on top of my head say, unless, of course, I actually get the details of the outstanding works. I don't really have all the details, but if I get it, maybe if you can give it to me after this program, I'll just go through and then give you some vivid information for your subsequent information to the public.
If you can help me with this rudimentary information, last time that we observed this, we realized that they have lost a significant amount of the gravel that was used to grade the site. So we are still in base material, but we are heading towards sub-base.
You are still in which one?
We are still using base material. We are still on base material. From what we observed, they are still on base material.
No, the base material is the one which is white, like the stone graded from the Shy Hills. What they are doing is a natural base. It's not the reddish material they are using now.
Yes.
The brownish material.
At the moment they are going to tip some of this gravel that you described. They've gone to tip some of the gravel you described on the road now. So there are heaps of that silver sand, if I can just call it that. Those silver gravels, they've gone to tip those silver gravels on it. Hello, engineer. Hello. Engineer Abdulai Mahama. We'll try and re-establish contact with him and just finish off that thought. But if you were, if you just tune in, we just had a conversation with him about the expectations. Bottom line, this is down to funding. And so, if the funding comes in quickly, the work can be done. He says that it's important that a dedicated source of funding is found for this project. And he's happy that attempts are made to contact EBID and a number of other international partners to help. The ECOWAS Bank for Investments and Development and the Development Bank of Belarus to help on this project. He says that government spreads itself too thin. We work on too many projects at the same time. That's also part of the problem. I think we can move from that conversation. It's 80 minutes to the top of the hour now. That means 80 minutes till we wrap up today's show. Quite a conversation we've had already. Now you can get ready for the Ghana World Music Festival 2019, powered by Hits 103.9 FM, Joy Prime TV, and the Year of the Return. A weekend of incredible global music at the Fantasy Dome La Accra from Saturday 3rd to Sunday 4th August 2019. Featured artists from Ghana, Jamaica, USA, South Africa, and Canada. Grammy Award artist legendary reggae band Third World, R&B songstress Deborah Cox, Irvin Mayfield, Ernie Smith, Ghana's own The Incredible Samini, plus more. Log on to GhanaWMF.com for a full lineup. For tickets, log on to FantasyDomeGH.com for ticket locations. Mobile phone *714 *5 *4#. Okay, so engineer is on the line with us still. Engineer.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. So if you can just have your final comments on that. I understand that from the conversation we are having, it will be difficult to get the exact timeline. That's fine. But if you can just have your final comments on this.
Well, I think that, like I said much earlier, the advice is to government to actually tone down on the project that we are handling at a time. Let's prioritize the ones which are so important. And then we shouldn't make it look like the other ones are not. But the essential ones which are within the area that needs to maybe like this Legma thing, the Legma clinic, which is attending to people outside the enclave, we don't have to check that responsibility much earlier. You understand? So I think that government should involve the engineer. I don't see a lot of the engineers making comment on some of these things. Seriously. That's it. I mean, it's just frustrating.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer Abdulai Mahama. Still live on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Okay, we'll take these important messages. We'll be right back. Now, when we come back, we speak to our friends from Adanse Travel who give you an awesome experience, an awesome opportunity. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
At Afrodev.